All right, how should we start the podcast?
Well, let's start just by let's just get into it. Well, I think we're already started.
I think we should start by saying we should start with like an argument. Like, no, fuck that. Oh, welcome to the ALLGROUND podcast.
Yeah, maybe next time, buddy.
Okay.
All right,
You can argue about it if you want.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the ALLGROUND podcast. Oh, that was good.
Yeah, that was nice.
That was a great intro.
Oh,
Probably
wait,
our best
actually,
one
that's,
yet. Yeah.
aren't we supposed to?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
Thank
That
you.
was totally random.
Okay.
Thank you to our studio audience.
Yeah. So today we skipped last week.
Yeah, we skipped. But why did we skip? This is a huge announcement, guys.
Yeah.
We skipped for a good reason. And that reason is...
There's officially an ALLGROUND pod baby. Meaning my daughter was born. And God, what a... Yeah. Yeah. Give it up, guys. Give it up. Thanks. That was enough.
That's enough. All right. Stop it.
But yeah, so there was a lot going on that week. It was, it just came in like a freaking, just a hurricane, of things. And, it still kind of feels like that, but it was wild. My daughter's here. She's just the most adorable thing ever. Yeah. And yeah, that was my week. That was pretty much all of our week.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but my daughter is 19 and nothing's changed. Yeah. It's like a hurricane.
Yeah.
And she's the cutest thing ever.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
it doesn't change.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever will.
Actually, that's pretty crazy. Would we be giving away too much if we told the parallels between the two of us?
No, it's
I
not.
don't think so.
Okay. Because
it is crazy, though.
It is pretty crazy. I mean, Temp Thai is married to a Laotian woman, and my partner is also a Laotian woman. Mm-hmm. And Thai's first child, his daughter, was born on December 30th, and
2005,
and my firstborn, my daughter, was born on December 30th, 2024.
It's crazy.
And
Yeah.
And they're probably like the only two half Laotian women in all of Reno.
Odds are good. Yeah, odds are good. There's not a lot of Laotians here.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised to even meet, another family of Laotians, and
Yeah.
it's pretty wild. I mean, just the parallels and not to mention, their family is from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Tina's family is from the Bay Area, so just wild.
Probably, I'm estimating live within 5 to 10 miles of each other.
Yeah,
in the Bay Area.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of parallels between Temp Thai and I, and it's just really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was born December 30th. Your daughter was celebrating her birthday at the same time.
Yeah, we were actually out at dinner.
Birthed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, it is wild.
Man, that is crazy.
But what an experience. What an experience.
Walk us through the whole thing.
Nah, you don't want to know. You just need to experience it for yourself.
Yeah, it's a little messy, you know, but after.
Oh, even beginning or during, it's just, it puts you just in awe of what a woman can do. And it just makes me want to just give the rest of my pants to Tina and allow her to run this relationship for the rest of time.
She's so much tougher than you.
Yeah. I realize now that I'm just such a weak person.
A weak, softy bitch.
Yeah, I'm a soft bitch. Because we can do stuff like, I don't know. What are some examples? Women can go through hard workouts. Men can go through hard workouts.
Yeah.
But men can still not give birth.
Yeah.
A woman could get freaking tortured, and a man can get tortured, but they're still not going through birth. They still have that one up of toughness on us, and they always will.
Yeah.
Sure. But watching it was the most mind-blowing experience and just like emotional experience. I've ever had, and it was amazing. Every moment was amazing, even the hard parts where, you know, your partner is in pain and you just want that to end for them, but it's still just such a beautiful process. And yeah, I'm fucking shout out to all the women out there that give birth, because I am just amazed.
Yeah, it's crazy,
Yeah.
dude. It is so weird. Like, I feel like reality sets in just every now and then, and I'm just thinking, Laird has a daughter in this world.
Yeah.
Like, as we're sitting on this, the last time we were doing this podcast, you didn't have a daughter.
Yeah.
And now you have a daughter on this planet, you and Tina. And it's just, man, it is so crazy to think about. It's so crazy to think about Lila just going through the stages of her life, and now we all get to witness it and be a part of it.
Yeah.
And eventually she's going to be on the mats, like training and rolling around. I mean, dude, that is crazy.
And it's gonna feel like it just happened.
Yeah.
It's gonna be insane.
Yeah, that's kind of what Tina and I have been talking about, because, I mean, before having Lila here, I just kept saying, like, oh, I can't wait to, like, be able to teach her jiu-jitsu or watch her compete, or, you know, have her watch me fight and whatnot, which is all stuff that I'm excited for. But using the term "I can't wait" is I definitely can. I definitely can. Because once she's here and you realize, like, how fast she grows, like, she's already gained, like, a few, like, maybe a couple pounds since she was born. And it's just crazy to see her, like, plump up, start, like, being more conscious of things, even within just the week that she was born. And it's like, holy shit, it really does go by fast, you know? And, like I said, it was a whirlwind, you know, the whole experience. And now she's already a week old. And I'm like, where the fuck? How did that went by so fast? But, you know.
For you, was it, like, for me, the first time we took our daughter home, that was maybe the most surreal experience. Because when you're in the hospital, you're like, okay, you know, it just doesn't feel real until they're like, okay, now you have this child, and good luck.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? You go home and things are so different. It's just bizarre.
It's definitely true. Like, once we brought her home and she was just in our house, like in her bassinet, I was thinking, wow, this is all us right now. You know, this little human being is going to be in our lives forever, you know, forever until the day that we pass, you know?
Yeah.
And no matter what, when they're adults, that you're still going to have a responsibility to them, you know, even when they're freaking our age and however old, because, you know, they're your kids and they're forever going to be your kids. So it's like, but I think one of the moments that really stood out to me is she had a high temperature when she originally came out, because they put her on Tina and then they put her into this, like, heating pad, and then they swaddled her like 3 times. They, like, triple swaddled her. And then after they were, like, doing the measurements and taking the weight, they put her back on Tina. And Tina was hot and, like, sweating, and they keep the rooms pretty warm because of the baby. And
like, that's weird. The temperature's gone up.
Yeah, so her temperature went up, and then they're like, oh, well, now we got to do blood work. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, in just 5 minutes after that, her temperature went down to normal. But they still had to do blood work just because they had
protocol,
that. Just because she had the one high temp. And we got to the postpartum rooms, and they took her blood. And I remember during that, she pooped, right? You just heard it as they were taking her blood, like they were finishing up, and just fat shit. I was half expecting, like, okay, like, they're going to change her diaper, like, all good, right on. And then they just picked up all their stuff and they left the room, and I was like, oh, it's real now. Oh, it's real now. I'm going to be having to do this for the rest of the, you know? And so I ran over there. I taught Lola, my sister, she was there the whole, you know, from the podcast. But I just instantly looked at her. I'm like, look up how to swaddle a baby on YouTube. And then I started, like, changing her diaper, and those first few, like, bowel movements are just what they call the meconium, and it's like a black tar, and it's, like, sticky. If you pull the diaper away from her butt, it's like a string. It's wild. Yeah. So, dude, that was probably one of the moments where I was like, yeah, this is us now. This is all us. This is our daughter. This is, you know? But gosh, it was so amazing. And then there was, one little scare where they like woke us up. I mean, they woke us up every hour, 30 minutes to an hour. There was a nurse in there or something. Just,
right.
You know, and so.
You don't sleep well in hospitals.
Yeah. It was like 5 a.m. The next day after she was born. She was born at night. And it was 5 a.m. And they like came in and they're like, oh, we got to take her to warm her up. Her temperature is low. It was like dropped below 96. And so, and Tina couldn't move. So she had to like, they woke me up and I was like, I'll go with her. And so I was just sitting in there, like watching her, like in this little, like
the incubator.
Yeah. The incubator. And shit's just like, your heart is just racing the whole time because it's fresh life and it's yours, you know? And,
and it's so small and so fragile looking, you know?
So small and fragile, and they can't do anything on their own, so you just want to be there for them at all times. But yeah, so I just sat in there for an hour and just watched her. But yeah, she's been doing good since. She's been doing great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, she looks so healthy, like so healthy, and she's gorgeous. Yeah. I mean, she's like a truly beautiful baby. I mean, it's crazy.
She is.
And like, I feel like I would probably say that anyways, because like I'm biased and you're my brother. But
yeah,
I feel like after a certain point, if you did have an ugly baby, I could be like, yeah, but your baby was kind of ugly. Like I could say it eventually, but like dead serious, she's just the most beautiful baby I've ever seen. Like, well, it's crazy.
Yeah,
she's so perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I was half expecting, like, you know, when a baby comes out, they all kind of look like a little, like an old man or something. Like a little wrinkly, you know.
A little Benjamin Button action going on.
Kind of Gollum-like.
Yeah. But, yeah, when she came out, it was just...
Oh, God, are you sure this one's ours?
All right, do you got the bands right? No, but yeah, she came out, and I was like, wow, she's beautiful. She's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you would feel that way anyway because it's your own kid. But like, yeah, she was. And I had other people that we FaceTime say that too. But yeah, what an experience. And I want as the partner, you know, obviously like I can't say that I want every woman to go through that, especially like a natural birth because it's so intense. But as like a partner, I want every man to experience their wife, partner, you know, going through that, you know, or just to be there for them and like to witness it and experience it. I feel like it's life changing as a man, you know.
Yeah, so I'm sure.
Yeah, can't wait for you.
You know, when I was born, my mom was telling me that at that time, culturally, men usually weren't in the room. Like they were just like, like go have the baby, and I'll meet up with you later. You know, like they weren't there for that experience and. It's kind of sad, you know, that they were like, I'm good. I don't need to see that.
Yeah, it is because it's like, dude, it builds. I mean, it just builds this like new image of like of
your significant
other, and you just realize how strong and resilient and powerful they are, and then like at the same time, it gives you this like mental fortitude because when you're watching them, you just want to like you hate seeing them go through that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like 8 hours of pain.
Yeah.
And then it's like 12 hours of excruciating pain. So
yeah.
It's like, it's just fucking, it's wild. Yeah. And so, yeah, you want to be there. I'm lucky that I had Lola there because our intention was to do it natural. And Tina told me, she's like, do not let me like, just, we're sticking to this. Like no matter what, unless like baby is in danger or I'm in danger, like do not allow anything else.
Yeah.
But in that moment, like I'm like, I started talking to the nurse. I'm like, what do you like? Do you think we can get? Because Tina was like screaming out. She was like, get me something, like. And I was just, let's get her something. I was trying to get her something, and then Lola looked at me. She's like, no, we're not doing that. Thank God.
So it was like the scene from Hot Rod. Like, no matter what, don't let me. She's trying to ring the bell.
Yeah, but what just an experience of a lifetime.
Yeah,
like something I'll never forget. You know, forever.
I like the double meaning. God. The experience of a lifetime. Also the beginning of a lifetime.
Yeah. But anyway, that was the week so far.
That's so crazy.
You know, and now it's just been taking care of her, and you know, everything that parents say about getting no sleep is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Remember that story you told about the guy that said, "I'm going to get you one day," and you're like, "You're never going to get me." I was thinking, you know, he at least gained 1 week of experience on you.
You know what's funny?
He only needs another 20 years and he can get you.
Yeah, true. Well, no, because I actually told my dad this yesterday. We had a phone call just about like martial arts, and obviously have Lila now, and I've been dealing with some injuries even before that, and now still. But I just told him I feel like I'm getting better.
Yeah.
Just because I've done martial arts for so long that if I can watch things, and I'm very studious. I've always been able to like, not like, especially when it comes to watching and studying martial arts, like I just love it. I've always been a fan of like breaking down fights. I'll watch like the same fight over and over and over again, right? Just breaking down what, like, you know, what was done well, what could have done better. I even put myself like, oh, if I was in this position, how would I beat them? Or like, what would I do if they, you know, I try to pick up on patterns that people are doing. And so I'm always studying. And my biggest, like one of my favorite things to watch is wrestling, obviously. And right now with the NCAA season, I'm just constantly watching, you know, wrestling videos and just matches. And I told him, I'm like, I feel like I'm getting better just watching.
Yeah.
Like I'm at the level now where if I can see something, I can apply it to my practice. Obviously, I'm in shit shape.
Fitness wise, that's not going to be the case. But skill wise, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's funny. I was talking to this morning at class, watching Elias. He was showing us a guard break, and he stepped, put the knee behind the butt and like post with the other leg, and then once you've got the elbow in the crotch, then you can release the sleeve and break the leg. Yeah. And I don't know if you notice you do this, but like you subtly, like you guys both do this. You subtly do things, and I don't know if you're even consciously doing it or if you just unconsciously do things well because you've done it for so long. But that posted leg, right as you push, you kind of straighten the leg out and create like a slope. Right. So that the leg can slide, right? Instead of keeping the knee bent. And like I'm looking around at everybody else, and everybody else is just keeping their knee bent, and they're pushing the other person's leg into their own leg. And I was like, that's a little subtlety. I was talking to Monty about it, and I'm like, yeah, they're doing, Elias did this. And I don't, clearly that is helpful, just the physics of it. Yeah. And so anyway, just when we watch you guys teach, obviously we want to listen to what you're saying because you are telling us the most important points that we want to focus on. But if we can also notice the little nuances of the things that you do as your students, I think that's the benefit of having a high level coach, that not only are you going to tell us the things that are important, but you're going to do things that are important. Yeah. Because you've got those little habits that have helped you through your careers.
Yeah. I think you're going to be able to teach it one way, but when you just problem solve or just get faced with like an issue with a move, and you're just constantly forced to refine until you start doing things that are making it work in practice in your live practice specifically, then it might not even be something like you add to like the coaching, but it's just something your body does naturally because you felt it in positions so often that your body just adapted. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why Laird and I will stick to a curriculum for a while, and then we'll go to a new one, but then we'll go back to a curriculum because like we're constantly iterating on, the technique before and making it better and making it more solid. Yeah. But as we do it as well, because we try to like practice what we preach, of course. And I feel like so many subtleties and so many other like cues that I can like tell, and instruct as I'm teaching it again. So I'm like, there's so many things I do. Like when we roll on Saturday, I feel like that's my time to really like feel what I'm doing with like other bodies at the open mat. And then I just take a bunch of mental notes. And a lot of times I'm taking notes on the whiteboard as well. But all of these, techniques you can just constantly iterate on, as you notice those little subtleties that we're doing.
Well, and that's the other thing in like the book Jiu Jitsu University. I was kind of talking to, I don't even know who I was talking to this morning about it, but again, Monty, I think, but you know, there's just really, really fundamental stuff in there, obviously. And then a lot of times in any athletic endeavor, whether it be, you know, basketball, football, wrestling, combat, whatever, you learn some fundamentals, and then at some point you move on to higher level skills. And a lot of times the higher level people are like, I don't need to learn that stuff again. I already know that. But I think that couldn't be further from the truth, because when you go look at those base level skills, those fundamentals, you might see them in a way that you never saw them before, and realize that you were missing a little something, or you'll understand it on a deeper level, and it'll make you so much better.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've taught at a lot of gyms where I've like taught an advanced class, or even just with purple belts, brown belts in there. And I'm just like, all right, today I want to see a fundamental elbow escape.
Right.
Fundamental elbow escape. You know, the way that it was originally taught.
Yeah.
And you constantly see like brown belts, purple belts that just can't get it. They're not getting it right. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is how far you've come from the basics, from the fundamentals. Right. Or like, you're never good enough, or you're never too good to be learning the basics, or to be going over the basics. Like, your foundation is everything in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. You know, fundamentals builds your foundation. And if you don't have those, you start messing up in other areas as well.
It's kind of like physiology, right? Like if you have a bad ankle, you start favoring that ankle, and it can create problems with your knee, and then your hip, and then all at once your back hurts. And it's kind of the same thing, where you get this domino effect where if the fundamentals are not there, you're compensating, and you're able to get by. Yeah. But you're not like moving the way that you should be moving.
Yeah. And another thing is, I feel like we often, just to get back to like the teaching point, I feel like there's so many times where we'll teach something one way, you know, the previous month, and then the next month we go back to that and we add something to it. Or we're like, hey, this detail, we looked at this and we want to add this detail, or we want to like remove this detail and do this instead because we feel like this is more effective. Yeah. You know, and I think that's just a testament to like how studious Elias and I are with jiu-jitsu specifically, or with martial arts specifically, is we're not, I mean, we're still students as well. You know, we're coaching, but we're constantly trying to learn, like, what is the best way to do things? Like, how can I make this move better? How can I make that move better? How can I make it easier to teach as well? Because that's one thing, is you can find a way to do it better, but how do you make your students understand easier, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it definitely helps that we're doing that we're in the field as well. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I mean, you've had your injury and whatnot, but how much time have you spent on the mat, like actually rolling and competing? You know, like, it helps so much to have that perspective. And I feel like a lot of instructors, like, once they become instructors and they stop competing or whatnot, they're going back and they're teaching the same technique, you know, the same way. But yeah, it helps a lot when you can perform it on your students, right? You can do it in live training and then constantly update it. I remember like when we were over at CTA, and all of a sudden I was dealing with a whole different level, you know, of competition or just teammates that were just super high level. I remember thinking, like, at that time I was like, oh my gosh, my fundamentals, like, as a black belt, are not even where I want them to be. Yeah. You know, because I would do a guard break, and then Kaya would be like, no. Like, that's not how you do it. And I'm like, okay. So now I'm learning, you know, more about my fundamentals, which, you know, to anyone else, like, I would have super solid fundamentals, but they're constantly being updated, you know? Like, jiu-jitsu is truly infinite. And when you look at like the highest level, there's always those little subtleties or cues that they can show you. You know, those tiny little details. And like our dad says, like, the microscopic details.
Which I feel like we did have. And we have a lot more than most people. Yeah. You know, is the fundamentals, because that's something that Dad was just so strict on. Yeah. You know, and he never let us get away with it. You know, he would have us, you know, even when we were advanced, he would have us end our class with, you know, 50 swinging arm bars or like, you know, 100 elbow escapes, you know, to full guard, or just fundamental escapes, fundamental guard passes, guard breaks, you know. And yes, jiu-jitsu has evolved, and there's better ways to do things and more ways to do things. But that's one thing that Dad always made sure we were doing was the basics. He was very much into the
fundamentals,
practice one move 10,000 times, not practice 10,000 moves one time, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I think that, because we were raised like that, because Dad had us doing all of these fundamentals so many times, and even teaching them to the point where, like, he felt like, you know, we understood him to the point where we could teach him. You know, he was watching us. But yeah, no matter where we went and how the game evolved, it was always easy to catch up, right, to the evolution because of the fundamentals that we had, the foundation that Dad gave us.
Yeah.
So
speaking of the evolution, so I mean, obviously, you know, BJJ is evolving quite a bit, and like there's different ways to do things. Do you think that is because as people have you know practiced jiu-jitsu, they've learned to defend well against a certain sweep, or they've learned to defend well against a guard break or whatever, and then people are like, well, we have to evolve now so that can't be defended against so easily. But then because now people are defending against the new way, if you shift back to the old way, maybe it's just as effective as it ever was.
Well,
does that happen?
I was thinking about this because I think over time, the longer jiu-jitsu is around, the more moves that will be developed.
Sure.
You know? But I think, like we were talking about, the fundamentals, the foundation, right? Body position, balance, you know, top position, defense. Those are all going to be things that are just, they're always going to be effective no matter when you learned them and if you're at the highest level. Like I used to argue with my dad about like how, you know, Hickson was considered the greatest grappler of all time for a long time. And I'm like, well, I don't know if he would even do well against like a high level, like at the time, I think when we were having this conversation, it was Keenan Cornelius who was fucking just destroying people and just doing all this new wizardry shit, squid guard, you know. What's the other one? Worm guard, yeah. And I was like, I don't know if he'd be able to, you know, deal with that, even like a high level brown belt, you know. Now I'm thinking about it, and I mean, Hickson, though he didn't have the moveset of the newer generation, his body position, his balance, his strength, his awareness of like when he's in danger because he's done it for so long is probably so good just over years and years of doing it that he'd probably be just as effective with that game against the newer school. And I think you're seeing, like you said, the old school start to come back into play because nowadays people are favoring being on top, having strong position, passing.
Yeah.
You know, one of the better gi grapplers right now, Tainan Dalpra, is like fundamental guard play. You know, he's not going crazy. He's not doing like lassos, you know, spider. He's just, I feel like he gets to his daily hiva. He works the sweep from there, and then he's passing. Or he's on top and he's passing right away. Yeah. You know, and it's just, it's more about balance, you know, and awareness and just positional strength more than like how many moves you know, I feel like.
Yeah. Like the fanciness is not going to get you as far as fundamental movement, balance, timing. Those things are going to matter. They're always going to matter.
Yeah.
They're timeless.
I also think that's why you see wrestlers have so much success in jiu-jitsu very soon because it's a more balance-oriented sport, you know, because you can't get put to your back. So you have to figure out any way possible to keep your base strong enough to not be put to your back, not be put to your butt, not get taken down, right? So there's way more balance and like body awareness than even jiu-jitsu guys. You know, I see jiu-jitsu favors like the less athletic person, but I feel like with wrestling, you just builds athleticism, you know? I mean, just an example of this is Jason Knoll versus Renato Canuto, you know? Renato Canuto was complaining about how, his wrestling wasn't even that good. And that shit pissed me off so bad because I was like...
This was at UFC
This is at UFC Fight Pass. And I'm like, first of all, Jason Nolf is a fucking white belt. He's a white belt in jiu-jitsu. You're world champion black belt.
Yeah.
You know, and like he took you down at will. Anytime he wanted to take you down, he took you down at will. Plus, he's not just fucking mopping you around the mat with his takedowns because of the threat of the submission. Because you can jump on a neck or jump on it, like, which you can't do in wrestling. But if you guys were to just go toe to toe, just, hey, let's go wrestling rules, Jason Nolf would wipe the floor with him.
Yeah.
You know, a million times.
Yeah.
You know, and now he's going into his rule set, and Renato Canuto can't submit him. He can't, you know. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
I
got pissed at his interview afterwards. I was just like, I lost.
Oh, did he
lost
win?
a little respect. Renato? Yeah, he won.
Oh, how did he win?
Just like positional. He had like a triangle locked up for a bit, but
You just couldn't finish him.
he just couldn't finish him. And obviously his guard play is way, way better. It's super effective. I mean, Jason Nolf has, you know, barely been doing jiu-jitsu. So, yeah. But the way he was talking in his interview afterwards was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But anyway, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say it exposes the flaws with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's why we emphasize so much wrestling and, you know, takedowns in general in our training and at All Ground, because you want people and students to feel capable. And Laird and I are looking at the sport and like in the way that it's evolving, you know, and how fast it's growing and the direction that it's going. And yeah, you need to be able to play on top. You need to have good base. You need to be able to wrestle, right? Especially just from a combat standpoint. I mean, Laird and I both fought. Like, you don't want to have a weak base and end up on your back if you don't need to be there.
Yeah.
You know, and then when you're on top, you have gravity on your side as well, right? So being on top, you can conserve energy, you know, you can weigh on your partner. And I think it's the reason like a lot of the Dagestani wrestlers just beat the shit out of a lot of grapplers, you know? Because they just have that base, that pressure. And like just having these concepts of grappling, just base and pressure, like, I mean, just that alone can break so many high-level jiu-jitsu athletes because they're just not used to having a wet blanket on top of you that you can't off-balance. You know?
Well, what are like Sun Tzu, Art of War? You know, one of the huge things is always have higher ground. You know, when you're fighting, always have higher ground. And when you're on your back, you are in lower ground. You are on your back. You have gravity working against you. You're constantly forced to use your core. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just even down to like war tactics. You know?
We're renaming the gym High Ground.
yeah. All ground, high ground.
High ground jiu-jitsu.
So
it's
actually kind of cool.
What do you think about the significance of jiu-jitsu in our culture as far as what do you think the highest value goals for the average person would be if they're thinking like, oh, you know, they hear the hype, everybody's talking about BJJ, oh, you should do jiu-jitsu, it'd be really fun. What do you think, like, if you're talking to somebody who has never done jiu-jitsu before, like what benefits are you really hyping? Oh, you could go enter tournaments, or you could not get mugged, or, you know, just self-confidence, fitness. Like, what do you think the highest value things are for the general public?
You know, what I typically tell people is I'm like, just get your blue belt and quit.
Yeah.
Just get to your blue belt and then you're done. You know enough.
Done.
Like you're going to be good for the rest of your life.
90% of the population.
Yeah.
You're good.
And then in about 5 years, you're going to forget it all. But that's okay because you got your blue belt.
Yeah. And you can always
you can put it on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu blue belt for life.
Yeah.
Hashtag blue belt for life.
No, but gosh. Repeat the question for me.
So, I mean, you know, if you were
What's the
talking to somebody
ultimate
like,
selling point?
yeah, I guess selling point.
Okay,
but like, what's the biggest value add for somebody in their life? What? Ooh,
Well,
pull that.
Here, Ty, I'll tell you.
All right.
If you and I were in a fight,
It would kill you.
I would kill you.
Yo, let's clip that. That's good.
Yeah, that's really good, dude. It's an original thought,
Super
too.
original.
Nah.
No, that is definitely like. I mean, you gotta work to the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
You know, you might be able to tell one guy that, and that might actually make him think, "Holy shit, you're fucking right. I gotta do jiu-jitsu."
I guess the point though is like not what will he perceive as the highest value or she perceive as the highest value, but what do you think is going to make the biggest impact in somebody's life that's starting jiu-jitsu?
I think it's the most practical modern self-defense art.
Okay.
Because no matter what size you are, whether you're a small girl, right, or a big guy, like it's all about leverage and technique, you know? So if you're stuck on your back and, you know, someone's raining punches down on you, you gotta know jiu-jitsu in order to escape the situation or reverse the position or something. So I think like it's the most valuable self-defense as a modern martial art.
Okay. I would agree. I would say what's cool is that, we're getting a time check. Oh man.
Dude, there's this gnat.
Yeah. What's cool is when a new white belt comes in, somebody that's just starting and they may be fairly young, fairly athletic, and you start from standing and like, say for me, I'm about 5-6 months into my journey, right? And we start from standing. That white belt doesn't really know anything at all. They're just flailing around. The only thing they're doing is not punching me or kicking me.
Yeah.
Right? But other than that, they're just like, I got to take this guy down. They don't know what they're doing, right? And I find that knowing just 4 or 5, 6 months of jiu-jitsu, that I can pretty easily take down the average, like young kids, like, 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
When they first start, it's really hard for them. Now they'll catch up, but general public.
And I think the reason that you're having a lot of success with that so soon is because, and you don't really see that. I feel like if you're a 4-month white belt, you're still going to have a hard time with a guy that's his first class who's like strong and wiry, you know?
Right.
But I think you're having success is because you're really paying attention to the detail. You ask us questions. You make sure to like say, even during the practice, you're like, hey, am I doing this right? Should my leg be here? Should my arm be here? And I feel like you're very attentive to the details while we're teaching, and not to mention you're practicing it, or you're going for it in your live practice. Like you'll always say like, oh, I tried to get him with what we learned today.
Right.
Oh, and I failed, or, oh, I did it and I succeeded. And this is something I always stress. Is I tell people after class all the time, attempt the moves that you're learning.
And be okay with failing.
Yeah. The
totally.
only way, the way you're going to get better faster at them is through resistance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can drill them just, perfectly, make sure you're getting the technique right. But then when you have resistance against you, that's when you learn those little, like the small things that are going to make it work. You know, oh, I can adjust here, or, oh, that worked because I did this, or, oh, I tried this and it didn't work. What should I do better next time?
Yeah, you have better questions too when there's
Yeah.
resistance. You're like, I don't know what to do with my foot. And it's like, just post it up.
Yeah, and I think some people come to jiu-jitsu sometimes thinking they're going to learn a move and it's going to work. You know? Oh, I drilled this move and then they face the resistance and they're like, why is it not working?
Right.
Yeah, well, it doesn't work that way. You know?
Yeah, totally. No, I agree.
I like saying too, like when I'm teaching now, I usually tell people like, this is where the fight is going to be.
Yeah.
Because you can start to go over the technique and a lot of time it's like a gripping sequence and you're like, okay, I can get to the gripping sequence, but then that's where the resistance really starts. So I like to like say like, oh, and this is where the fight is. You know, this is where you're going to have to like dig deep a little bit, try to stand, right? Posture up, break, right? This is where the fight is, but like follow these steps, but understand this is where the fight's going to begin, and then that's where you have to work through
the
it.
The crux
and
of this move is right here. And if you can get through that, then it'll probably flow for you.
Yeah.
I think this is where positioning and balance comes into play too, because there's been many times where I've faced some blue belt, and I'm a black belt, and I've faced some blue belts that are freaking strong, and they just trying to fight for their life for everything.
Right.
But when you have your
looking at one right now,
Nate's
that's neat.
He's like, that's me. But when you have the balance, you can just maintain that position. You might not ever get the pass you're looking for, but you're just constantly gripping, balancing through their struggles that they're just gonna gas out.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna get an easy pass, or specifically big dong. But
I feel like with the, like you were saying, being attentive and stuff.
That's our buddy's nickname, by the way.
Big Dong. Yeah.
Nate.
There's
Big Dong.
a tipping point in, like, for me, there was definitely a tipping point where I was just like everybody else. I mean, I remember flailing around, and I still probably appear to be flailing around to you, but there's a point where you really, really, like, one day you try really hard to do the move of the day, and then it works, and you're like, there's like a light goes on in your head and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God,
Yeah.
if I want to get better, this is how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you just go down that road. And, and there are days, obviously, for everybody in any athletic endeavor where you feel like you suck and days where you feel like you're doing really well, and you just got to be okay with that. But focusing on what the coach is teaching you, try to execute that. Because if I do other stuff, then yeah, you'll coach me, but it's not as good because both of our minds are on that thing, and your feedback is going to be more meaningful to me in that day. So I don't know. I feel like there was that tipping point for me. And I think for a lot of people, there probably is, where they're just flailing around and just trying to do what they can do. And they're not even trying the move of the day after you just drilled it for 30 minutes. But then one day they try it and then it works. And then they're addicted. They're like, all right, now I got to do that every time.
Yeah. People tell me that all the time, you know, oh man, I feel like I'm getting worse. Like, I'm not progressing. Like, what do you think I should do? And most of the time, well, first of all, I always tell people, like, you're going to feel that all the time. You're going to feel that through every belt you ever get. There's going to be a point where you feel like you're getting worse or you're not getting better. Yeah, even, you know, when you were talking about your golf lessons, you know, and how he's having you do like new things that are like fundamentally correct, but maybe you just hadn't done them. Yeah. And so when you start practicing it, you're going to feel like, oh my God, I suck at this.
Yeah. You get worse.
You get worse.
You get functionally worse for a while.
Because you're doing something different from what you're used to.
Right.
You know, what you're used to might not be right, but it might just feel natural to you.
You got enough compensation where you're kind of making it work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think when people start to learn more, understand more, they start to feel like, oh my God, I'm just not getting it, or they're trying more advanced moves, and then that's harder, you know. So they're having less success on bottom than
you're opening new holes in your game because you're trying things you hadn't tried before.
Yeah.
And now people are exploiting those holes.
Yeah,
but you have to do that. Like I always reference this. This is probably the fourth time in the pod, The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin, but he talks about how hermit crabs, if they want to grow, they have to leave the shell that they're in and go find a bigger shell. Yeah. But during that time, they're highly vulnerable. Yeah. Like that's when they can be killed, right? Right. And he uses that analogy. If you want to be better, and he's actually using it for martial arts, you have to leave your shell. You have to leave that comfort of what you've been doing and do something different. And then eventually you'll master it, and that's finding the big shell. Yeah. And but that's forever if you want to keep growing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's such a cool reference because it's so true. You know, in I mean life, but in martial arts you see it all the time, and you see it quick. You know, you're gonna go through moments as a white belt where you feel like you're getting worse, and then as a blue belt, purple, brown. You know, like
I think it's good to have that mental shift of, you know, being able to explore that discomfort, you know, and kind of get excited about it. Get excited about things you're bad at, you know, and just treat it like a game. Like, okay, I'm level 1 or level 0 at this right now. Exactly. Like, I just got to keep doing it. And then you have those breakthroughs. Like I'm sure for you in a lot of ways, but for me, like, I'll obsess over a technique for so long and just continue to try it on training partners, you know, people that give me a tough time until I have breakthroughs. Right. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, and it just feels so good because you learn those little subtleties, those things that can't always be taught. You just have to learn them, those little body movements. Yeah. You know, like specifically like with tripod passing, you know, just like heavy pressure, tripod passing. I just like obsessed over it for the longest time and just tried it. And honestly tried it for like 2 or 3 years before I like really understood it. Right. And now it's such a breakthrough when you're just like, I am just going to commit to this. And I think too, it helps. Like we were talking about this earlier, but kind of one thing at a time, you know, one goal at a time. You're constantly going to be learning things in jiu-jitsu, but yeah, if the goal that day, like the coach just wants you to practice the move, like in live training, like just do this. Yeah. You know, like if you really commit to that, you're like, it's going to suck, but I'm just going to do it the whole time. You know, you'll have such a bigger payout. And then it feels good because at one point you will have a little breakthrough, even in just one class, if you just commit to it. Yep. You know, and then you're like, okay, now I see. And then if you keep doing it, add it to your repertoire. Yeah. It's just, those are the best feelings in jiu-jitsu.
I got a question for you guys. Do you think it's a good thing to have a little bit of pride, like, or maybe I don't know. I don't think it's ego, but maybe a little pride in jiu-jitsu, like in certain moments, you know, like especially if you're a competitor or something, like, I don't know. An example would be, like, there's been times where I go to roll with someone that I haven't rolled with before, you know, and I try to, in my initial thought process going into this roll was like, oh man, I just want to, you know, get on top. I want to, you know, just be better at jiu-jitsu. I want to submit them. And then like I go for a shot and they defend it. And then I'm like, my mind switches and I'm like, I need to take this guy down 1,000 fucking times. You know, because he defended one of my shots. He needs to know that I'm better at wrestling. Yeah. Now I need to take him down like 4 more times. And then my whole game changes and I'm just like taking him down and letting him up. And then I'm taking him down again and letting him up. So do you think like that's an example?
Yeah, I think it can benefit you. Yeah. I mean, in that if you shot and he defended it, then maybe you need to shore up that hole, right? Yeah. And so if I shoot 10, 15 more times successfully, then I'm like, okay, that's good practice. But the psychology of it, I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah. I think it's a good example of like mental fortitude and resolve. Like you're just like, okay, now I don't care about anything other than taking you down 1,000 times. Yeah. I don't care. Yeah. I think it's a bad example of strategy. Yeah. Because as a martial artist, especially as a black belt, you have so many ways to defeat an opponent. And if you get stuck on one, you hinder yourself and then you're more prone to injury, prone to mistakes because you're now like leading with emotion when in reality, like you have so many strategies that you could use to submit this person a million ways or just to make their life a living hell. Yeah. I've felt that like so many times, especially, you know, in regards to like a specific technique. I'm like, they sprawled on me or something and now I have to take them down. But then if I can just clear that ego for a second, I'm like, you know, I'm just going to do heel hooks. Yeah. Then I heel hook this person like 3 times in the roll. And I'm like, now they're not going to leave the gym saying they gave me a tough round. Yeah. You know, because I just don't want that. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want them to leave and be like, yeah, I like stuffed that black belt shot. And I mean, they were pretty tough, but they didn't get me. I know. That would keep me up at night.
I like as a black belt, you know this because we've both done this. If you have like a hard roll that like you're not expecting to have a hard roll or you're getting resistance somewhere you're not expecting and you just instantly like, no, we're rolling again. Like I've rolled with like purple belts that I'm like, you know, I don't submit them within the first 5 minutes. So I'm like, we're going through this round. We're going 10 minutes. Yeah. You know, and they like try to stop and I'm like, no, keep going. Yeah. You know, and I'm just like, sorry, bud, you're not getting out of this. I'm submitting you before the end of the day.
Oh, dude, it's the worst.
I obviously can't relate because I'm a white belt and I have no expectations. So when I roll, I'm just like, whatever happens, man. I'm just trying to get better.
I have this story that I don't know if I told it on the pod yet, but definitely like my ego fully involved, but for good reason. I feel like I was in Idaho training with, I was at an open mat or the end of a class or something, but we're just doing a bunch of rounds and I'm just visiting, you know, so I'm the black belt on the mat and all the upper belts are wanting to roll with me. I'm like rolling a ton and I don't care. I love it. Like I will just roll until I'm freaking dog tired and just keep going. That's just the mentality, you know? Yeah. And I remember like having some pretty tough rounds with these guys. And there was this guy and I knew he was like an upper belt and he was just kind of waiting in the wings. And like finally, like after like what seemed like my last round, like I was actually exhausted at this point. This guy finally comes up to me and he's like, you want to roll? And I was like, this motherfucker. I was like, I just know.
He was waiting
like
for you to get softened
that was his strategy. Yeah. He's like, I'm good. This guy's good. I'm going to wait for him to get really tired and then I'll come in and maybe beat him in front of everyone in the class. Yeah. That's what I told myself in my head. I was just like, this guy's trying to embarrass me. Maybe he was actually super
cool. You don't know.
Nah, I hate this guy. Okay, So anyways, and I'll tell you why I hate him because we start rolling and for sure, like he's really good. Yeah. And he starts like kind of giving me some trouble, but I'm just dogging on him. I just got to like go full bore, put the pressure on him, passing to the outside. I can't really establish anything because I'm tired, but also he's really good. And then at some point I feel like I'm not going to catch him. So I'm just going all out. Like I'm just going to leave it all on the mat. And so I'm just pressuring, passing, like putting the freaking pace on him. Yeah. And at some point he stops. He's like, dude, no, I'm too tired. Like, I'm good. Like, he wants to stop. And I'm like, no, dude. No, dude. You are not stopping right now. I was actually furious. And I was like, you came in here. I didn't say this to him, but he was like, I was thinking, you came in here when I was tired after rolling with everyone. And now you're going to quit, like, with 2 minutes left in the round?
Yeah.
And so he looks at me and is like, dude, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And then I looked at him. I was like, then fucking die. And I just grabbed him and kept rolling. I literally did not let him take a break. He looked at me and was like, I'm going to die. I'm like, then fucking die. And I just grabbed him.
If he dies, he dies.
Dude, I was pissed, bro. And I think he knew I was pissed because I was like not super friendly after that.
Yeah,
but that was annoying. Just coming in and then saying you're tired after I've just been rolling for, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes there.
Yeah.
That's almost crazy to me.
That's almost as bad as having a restaurant and not having butter. And what's that all about?
My cortisol levels are just spiking right now.
Dude,
So
I
much stress.
fucking love that story. I have a similar story to that with sparring.
Yeah,
and
you should tell that story. That's such a good story.
Well, this
And then we'll wrap it.
this Mexican dude came in. He didn't really speak. He only spoke a little bit of English, and I think he actually was from like Mexico or somewhere, but he was visiting and just looking to train. He like trained MMA and did the whole thing. I think he was a pro fighter, like a younger pro fighter. And so we came into the sparring class at the old gym we taught at Fightcraft, and he just was beating the shit out of people, like regular everyday fucking guys that are just coming in to get a workout, and he was beating the shit out of them, throwing like spinning hook kicks to the face, and so I got so pissed, and he was like kind of going hard on this kid I really like, Chris, and so I like afterwards I was like, hey, like let's spar, and so and granted they're only 3-minute rounds, so I was like, I gotta put it on him in this 3 minutes. And right away, he just throws a spinning heel kick at my face. And I like, he misses, and then he's like throwing super hard. Like every punch he's throwing is to knock me out. And eventually I'm just like, oh, I gotta hurt this guy bad. And so I just keep going forward. I'm like hitting him. We start exchanging like leg kicks, and I'm just like, because he threw one super hard, and he was bigger than me. He was about, I mean, at the time he was, but now we might way closer to the same.
Fat, so.
Yeah. But he was just throwing everything to hurt me, and he was throwing spinning back kicks to my legs, kicks to my head, and eventually I just kept going forward. I was just hitting to the body a bunch. I remember he was like throwing to my head, and I just kept throwing to the body, like landing, just kicking his leg, throwing to the body, and the coach, it was getting so heated between the two of us. The coach was like freaking out. He was like trying to stop us. He was like, guys, chill, guys, chill. And I remember I was just like, no, man, it's already past the point of going chill. Like, I got to hurt this guy now.
Yeah.
So he was like saying this, trying to get us to stop, but there was just no way in hell it was going to stop. And then right at like, it was a 3-minute round. Like, if you're a pro fighter, you should be able to last 3 minutes. And right at like the minute mark, or right when there was a minute left, he just drops to his knees. And I felt like I didn't hurt him enough. I was like, I just made him tired, but I felt like I didn't hurt him enough. So I like stood over him, and I was like, don't you ever fucking quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I remember he like didn't speak much English, so he was just like, like doing this thing. And I was just like, oh, fuck. Like, I didn't hurt you enough.
Yeah. Oh God, bro. But yeah. I wish I was there for that. I wasn't there, but I just like remembered like the coaches telling me about it. I remember Laird telling me about it. I was like, God, I would have given anything to be there. That's so awesome.
My friend,
when he got on his knees, did you do the little jerk off thing that you like to
jerk
do?
off on his face?
Yeah. That's like your thing, right?
I should have.
That's definitely Laird's thing.
This is before that. This is before I developed that. But yeah, no, I was just like, oh, I was pissed.
Okay. All right, so
so we had some technical difficulties. Burger came in like a tornado,
a hurricane.
Yeah,
and ripped out the cord.
Burger, just so you know, was Elias's dog.
Yeah, Burger is my dog. We've actually said this all before. We're just reliving this experience.
Yeah, because we actually went after the the cord got unplugged, we plugged it back in, thought it was still recording. So we went for about 10, 15 minutes after just talking about some shit and then realized that none of it was recorded.
Yeah.
I think Berger actually did Shara bullets like double backhand.
Yeah.
And that's how he got the cord ripped out.
Yeah, damn, that's impressive, Berger. We got to get you in the UFC.
Speaking of the UFC,
we talked about the upcoming fights.
Yeah.
First, I was shouting out my buddy Jacoby Smith.
Yeah.
Who is fighting January 11th. And like I said, if you want to see just a specimen, just an athlete, a violent motherfucker, go out there and hurt someone, then tune in. He's stepping in short notice, so pretty big. And
that guy stays ready.
Yeah, sure. he's a savage. So
how would people
11th.
watch that? Where's that?
I mean, I think it's just on ESPN Plus. If you have ESPN, just tune in. It's a free fight night, this weekend. So
Nice.
Yep, and then I guess we'll just talk about Elias had some pretty. Well, I mean, I don't know if that's the yeah.
No.
That might be the consensus for everyone. Maybe I'm the opposite, but I personally think, and we're gonna talk about the main events of UFC 311, I believe.
Yeah.
Umar and Merab. I personally think Umar is gonna win, and that he can. He's better in all areas that Merab thrives. Obviously, they have different styles, but I think Umar has everything he needs to combat Merab's cardio, his wrestling, and his grappling. And Umar's striking is way better.
Yeah, world class for sure. I think Merab is going to win because I think that he's just going to impose him. I think even though, like, on paper, Umar is better, striker. I don't know that he's a better wrestler. I mean, I don't know that he's a better wrestler. Like, if they would just have a wrestling match, probably be pretty tough.
Yeah, it'd probably be pretty close.
But I just think Umar is going to impose as well. I think Umar is going to do what
Umar is going to impose as well. Yes,
that's what I thought.
It's a Freudian slip. He's just trying to be contrary.
Yeah. I think Merab is going to impose as well. He's going to do what people aren't able to do on Umar, and that's just walk forward, pressure him. And I think that he will make Umar tired. I think that Umar will get a little tired before Merab does.
No.
That's what I think.
No. It's
you guys bet $5. So
we did bet $5
still on.
$5 bet.
Yeah. So look, he's not going to get tired because, I mean, if you look at his fight against Corey Sandhagen is a way more elite striker than Merab.
He doesn't put the pressure on like Merab does, and that's gonna be what makes him tired.
No, but he does though. Like Corey had him backing up for a good amount of the fight, and Umar was forced to take him down, and Corey just got back up. You know how hard it is and how tiring it is when you take someone down and they get right back to their feet, and then you keep taking them down for 5 rounds. How fucking good a shape you're in if you're doing that.
Yes, but he's not going to be able to take Merab down the same way, and if he does, Merab's going to get up.
The thing is,
every time.
Look at Merab against Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley won the 5th round. He won the 3rd and the 5th round because, well, first of all,
I mean, Merab was kind of just coasting the 5th round. He knew he had won the fight.
Yeah,
until he got kicked really hard.
Until he got really hurt his belly and hurt.
Yeah. But what was that? The last 30 seconds?
Yeah.
No.
Seconds.
Well, I mean,
O'Malley was
what
like,
I'm
man,
saying
I
is
led with that.
is if there's any guy in the division that he's just going to make dog tired, it's going to be Sean O'Malley, because
Sean O'Malley,
technique for technique wise, Merab should have the style to just break Sean O'Malley, but it wasn't the case because Sean O'Malley is super dangerous with his striking, super explosive, and so is Umar. And so it's not just going to be this high pace that you think it might be.
No, I don't think it's going to be a high pace. I think it's going to be a high pressure. Like, I think Merab is going to pressure forward and keep that pressure. I think his goal is going to be to weigh on Umar.
Until he gets kicked in the face.
Yeah, he's got a big head. I think he's going to weigh on Umar, and like, that's what he has to do. If he's a smart, intelligent champion, he just has to put that forward pressure on Umar. He's got to keep him on the back foot, and he's got to weigh on him. He's got to have kind of a boring fight. He's got to keep him against the cage, get heavy on his arms, force Umar into scrambling positions. And
From what
I just
I
think
know.
he's going to do that. I just think Umar's that guy. Or I think Merab's that guy.
From what I know, from what I know, and from what you know as well, I've sparred Umar.
Yep. Yeah.
And my tactic was my tactic with everyone. Have some good technical boxing, get to my takedowns, hold him down. And that guy will not let you hold him down for the life of him.
Yeah, but imagine.
And he will just keep coming forward.
Imagine if you had a
and keep
10-week
fighting.
training camp.
Yeah, and imagine if Umar has a 10-week training camp.
Okay.
Look,
who's going to win?
I think
I think
Umar
Laird's going to win because he's going to impose his will. Now, is Umar a better kicker than you? Yes. Does Umar have maybe better striking on paper? Yes. Does he have better wrestling on paper? Yes. But I know that just based off pressure alone, he'll be on the back foot. And I just think that over 5 rounds, like, it's going to be too much. And
I don't think he has the striking to impose that kind of pressure, And when you're getting your shots defended, it's going to be even harder. Like, I think if you look at someone who imposes their pressure on someone, it's Ilia Topuria. And why? Because he has the striking and the power to knock you the fuck out. Merab does not have that, so there's not as much willingness to be like, oh, I just got to go back. I got to go back. Right? This guy's going to fucking hit me hard,
Yeah,
If anything, Umar is going to hit him hard moving back. And we saw, like, Umar can fight moving back, and that's tiring. And if you can do that for 5 rounds, that's fucking impressive. But
so hard to
different
predict
opinions.
because you've never seen him fight before. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
But-
it is going to be hard. Either way, I think it's going to be a really closely contested fight. I don't think it's going to be one-sided.
Yeah, I like I said, Umar's going to destroy him. No. I think Merab is the toughest fight in that division for Umar, but I think Umar's still going to win.
Yeah.
It's great. The second time through, your first argument wasn't as vehement. I think you had more time to think about it and get worked up and be like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we're much more civil in the first one.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to find out, and I'm going to win $5. But we'll move on to the main event, Islam and Arman. We talked a little bit.
Yeah.
Arman is an exceptional athlete. You were kind of saying how, his goal isn't necessarily the same as these other guys, and that's probably what makes him dangerous,
Yeah. I think he's ultimately relaxed, and he's just like, he doesn't put the pressure on himself, and so he can just allow it. He just allows himself to shine, you know? Like, he just goes out there, has fun. He doesn't care about winning or losing, but he's just highly competitive and just not afraid to throw caution to the wind, show all of his techniques, wrestle, strike. Just no matter where the fight goes, he's so confident, and he's also just a freak athlete. And so I think that I do think that he believes he can beat Islam, but I don't think that he has the resolve that Islam has. I think Islam just has the most unbreakable spirit of all time. And to your point, you were saying that Islam is a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. Maybe you could speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I think. I just think the way he thinks about martial arts, the way he practices, the evolvement in his skill, evolution in his skill per fight, is very noticeable. And I also just think, knowing Arman's style, people are making him seem more dangerous to Islam than he actually is. I think Islam, his wrestling defense is fucking impeccable. It's so good. I'm pretty sure Arman is the first person to take him down, but Islam got back up, and Islam won the takedown exchange in the last fight. Obviously, Arman took that fight on short notice, and like he said in interviews, when the focus for that fight was just to be in shape to fight. Now he gets to focus on how to beat Islam Makhachev. And that's going to make him more dangerous. But it's the same as Islam. The focus for Islam was a different guy in that first fight. And then he was forced to fight a guy that probably wrestles a hell of a lot better than anyone else he could have fought. And now he just gets to focus on this one guy. And I think Islam, if you give two guys a 10-week training camp, and one of those guys is Islam, he's going to take more from it than the other guy.
Yeah.
You know, especially with his corner. I mean, Khabib is very fucking cerebral and such a good coach.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I think Islam is going to make it look easier than people think, honestly.
Yeah. I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, you're in agreement on that one at least.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was pretty much it. That's all we really had to recap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Umar for the win.
Umar for the win. These guys sound too much the same. Dang it. Now I'm thinking
Damn it,
Islam.
I got you again.
Islam for the win.
That's so funny.
That is funny.
Anyway.
Alrighty. Peace.
Peace.